Hey there, what is happening? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby, and today I wanted to come to you with a video on my adjusted portfolio, kind of how things have changed over the past week or so. It's been about a week since I updated my portfolio on the website to kind of adjust some of the changes that I've recently made. And I have another change that needs to happen in the future here, but I wanted to talk about my updated portfolio, where I'm looking to go in the future strategically, and how a couple different conversations that I've had recently with a number of people have kind of shaped how I'm thinking about investing strategically moving forward, and wanted to bring that information to you right away. So as far as things go, if you guys are new here, hit the subscribe button. I would certainly appreciate that. I do daily, sometimes more than daily, crypto videos on what's going on in the market, where my thoughts are at, and try to bring as much insight to you as possible. And this is really just from my mind as a regular investor and somebody that is trying to keep as up to date within the space as possible, to provide you with just an idea of what other people are doing in the space. Not necessarily that what I'm doing is the end all be all or anything of that nature, but I'm looking to, from an investment standpoint, try to continually increase my earnings, increase my stack, and try to make more and more gains in the crypto space and deploy that capital throughout my portfolio and continue to grow my portfolio. So to that effect, if you haven't seen my portfolio before, I put it on my website. The website is I only have a few things on the website right now. It's really just a hub for my YouTube. If you're not familiar with it, you might be watching this right now, or maybe you're on the podcast, but I have links to my YouTube, my podcast there, and then just the tools and resources that I recommend. But the little link here for the portfolio itself, this I just updated this today, and I wanted to drop through here and just kind of walk you through my portfolio right now, and then my updated strategies for the future and what I'm thinking about, and kind of how I'm adjusting things as I see. So right now, like I said, this is updated as you see here on September 6th. So today, as of the recording, and a couple different things about the portfolio in general. So right now, one thing that I will note is the Ethereum that I have. About 32% of my fiat holdings, about 32% of my portfolio right now is actually in Ethereum. That's actually going to be a little bit less. So I have Manetha right now. I participate in the Manetha ICO with Ethereum. I utilize that to get in. I've increased my stack of Ethereum quite a bit, but I have not sold that Manetha yet. So I'm waiting to, as of today, tomorrow, I'm actually going to make a kind of choice as far as what my trade is going to be with that ICO, if I'm just going to take the profits or if I'm going to let some ride. So out of that 32%, about 10% of that might actually be Manetha right now from kind of where things are. So Ethereum is definitely one of my core holdings, but right now this is a little bit overstated just because I'm still trying to determine exactly what I'm going to do with that Manetha, and it's only listed on Ether Delta right now, so it's a little bit hard to get an accurate assumption or an accurate gauge of kind of everything there. But outside of that, so you guys can understand and get a feel for where my head's at right now, my main holding, or one of my main holdings, is Ethereum. Additionally, with that, OMG is my second largest holding as of right now, if not my largest, depending on Manetha and what I do there. But that is about 23% of my portfolio right now. And I really, quite frankly, didn't invest that much in OMG, but it's 10x'd in. It's up about 10x right now. So when you consider that, it really didn't take that much of an investment to become a really large part of my portfolio. So right now, I invested about 3% of what my portfolio is in fiat. I invested about 3% of that, and now it's about 23% of my overall portfolio there for OMG. So that is a big holding for me, and I haven't liquidated that yet, and I don't really plan on doing that at this point in time. I feel fairly confident in where OMG is going, the strength it has, and really the interest it has in the project. So right now, OMG is a very large part of my portfolio, but at the same time, it's pretty much all gains or paper gains at this point, and I feel happy about where that is. Additionally, another large part that you might see here is Civic, which is 21% of my portfolio. With Civic, I invested in at the ICO and haven't sold any of that investment yet. So it's up about 4.5%, it's up about 450% since the ICO on a fiat basis. So it is up quite a bit. and I have not liquidated any of it yet. It is down from its all-time highs. It was up about 700% from the all-time highs of Civic, and now it's about 400, like I said, 450%. So this number was actually higher at a certain point in time, but I'm just holding on to Civic. One thing that you'll probably notice, or two different things you'll probably notice, is number one, Bitcoin. I only have about 8% of my portfolio in Bitcoin right now. I'm looking to continually to increase that, and Bitcoin, I think, is a bit expensive right now, but I do think that it's a really good, safe place in a lot of respects to have your money in cryptocurrency, and I'll get to that in a little bit more as I go through this video. But while I don't have a ton of money in Bitcoin, what I am looking to do is taking profits from ICOs and taking profits from some of these coins, and I'm eventually going to be moving them into Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin is going to, in a lot of cases, be a nice long-term play along with Ethereum. I view Ethereum and I view Bitcoin as solid long-term plays for two separate reasons that I'll get into in a second, but that's something that I think is, kind of important to understand from what I'm thinking about. Now, and additionally, I have about 8% of my portfolio, a little under 8% of my portfolio in Status. Another ICO investment. I've liquidated the majority of that investment, and that's kind of fallen off a little bit of a hill from a chart perspective. It has not done well in the past month. While everything else was moving upwards in August, Status is moving downwards, which wasn't great to see. Outside of that, I have a couple different investments that have not turned out well for me. Ethereum has turned out pretty well. OMG has been fantastic. Civic has been fantastic, and Bitcoin has been good so far for me too. But if we're looking at things that haven't turned out so well, DNT from its peak is about down 50%. Granted, I didn't invest at its peak, but I'm still down about 30% in my investment. I participated in the Credo investment, or in the Credo ICO. That is down from 66%, or that's down about 66% from the ICO. So I put in 4.5 ETH, not a ton, but I put in about 4.5 ETH into the ICO. Right now, that 4.5 Ethereum is only worth about 1.5, which is pretty sad, pretty pathetic from an ICO perspective. So not great there. And then OAX, I invested a slight bit in the ICO, and then a little bit following that when it started to have a nice little moonshot, and then it fell off a cliff as well. Realistically, I should have just sold the small bit I had from the ICO, taken that profit and moved elsewhere, but I did not do that. So, it is what it is. But, good lessons for me as well from DNT, Credo, and OAX's perspective is that even if the market's hot, when you invest in crypto, in my mind, just because something rockets up doesn't mean it's not going to fall just as fast and fall farther than where it was when it started rocketing. And that's kind of happened a little bit with DNT. That's happened. Really, Credo never rocketed at all, so it hasn't happened with Credo, but it happened with OAX as well. That that kind of had a really nice moonshot and then just fell off a cliff and is now down back below basically pretty much where it ICO'd. So that's something to be, to understand and evaluate as you continue to see things. So this is just my portfolio for personal transparency, so you guys kind of know where I'm at. And when I talk about things from an investment bias perspective or anything like that, you can get a good feel for what I think, what I believe in. And as much as I'd like to have a lot of other cryptocurrencies, people ask me a lot of times, why aren't you invested in Litecoin? Why aren't you invested in something else? And I wish I was invested in Litecoin. I didn't make that move, and Litecoin has doubled in the past month, while I've had money in Status that has done nothing but go down. I've had money in DNT that hasn't really gone anywhere. I had money in a number of places that did not do as well as Litecoin has. So I don't have any necessarily negative connotations that come with something like Litecoin or any other cryptocurrency for the most part. But you can only have your money in so many different places in my mind, and I try to keep track of everywhere that money is at. And then in certain cases, when the money is so small like it is right now with something like OAX is 1% of my portfolio, doesn't really move the needle for me. I just kind of hold and see what's going to happen there. So that's kind of that's a little bit of where my head is at. And as I continue to have conversations with people in the cryptocurrency world, whether it's through meetups, whether it's just with people on Twitter, and kind of learning about different things and broadening my horizons from an education perspective, what I am going through, really what I'm going through the process of doing now is trying to understand what everybody in this industry is thinking, what is driving their thought process from an investment perspective and allowing them to pick and successfully pick different coins and have success with investing. And in that process of doing so, I've come to a couple different theses of note. And one of those at this point in time is that I'm looking, and I think a lot of other people are now not necessarily seeing the ICO window closing, but in some cases, seeing the ICO window closing and seeing the window for some of these smaller cryptocurrencies closing a little bit. And I don't mean that cryptocurrency will be going down overall, but I think there might be the potential in the near future, especially for some of these smaller cryptocurrencies with the regulations that are going on, if they might be considered securities or if they just might not have like the legal backing to withstand a regulation onslaught or whatever it might be. I think that some of the smaller cryptocurrencies that people have in play as moonshots and maybe people got in at the ICO level will take a turn for the worst, and things like Bitcoin, things like Ethereum, maybe things like Bitcoin Cash. I don't really know too much about Bitcoin Cash, and I think that's kind of a crazy market dynamic, but Litecoin, maybe like Monero, whatever it might be, a lot of these maybe top 10, top 20 coins people are going to be putting a lot more money into these top 10 coins and really into the top 5 coins to kind of protect their assets. And I think that's something that I'm going to continue to potentially evaluate and look to do as a strategy, is moving more and more of my holdings into, for the near term, Bitcoin and Ethereum as these regulations come out. Because while Bitcoin and Ethereum might not jump as much as a cryptocurrency, down here in the Bitcoin and Ethereum might not jump as much as a cryptocurrency is down in the 70s or 60s or 50s in coin market cap. On the other side of the house, they're not going to fall as much, or typically they're not going to fall as much when negative news comes out. If you saw Bitcoin when the negative news came out about the China ICO, that only fell less than 10%, while basically everything else fell a significant amount, 10 to 20%. So 10 to 20 to 25% really. So I think people are going to continue to look for, in the near term, gains with some of these smaller coins. But I think there may be a point in time where the smaller cryptocurrencies are having a little bit of trouble from a regulation perspective, and they're not able to maybe deal with that as much as some of the larger cryptocurrencies. They don't have the backing, and it's going to lead from people putting their money in some of these altcoins to putting their money in a Bitcoin, in an Ethereum, whatever it might be. And I think that's something that I'm kind of evaluating, and I'm seeing if that's going to be a trend that materializes or not. That's something in my mind from a trend perspective I think is possible. And I think there is going to be a window in time where this like altcoin boom kind of doesn't necessarily blow up, but that it goes south. And that when it goes south, that money goes to the larger cryptocurrencies as somewhat of a safe haven and also as a place for growth. So that's something that I'm evaluating as well. And to that point too, one thing that was fairly interesting in a conversation I had on Twitter with somebody who's, if you're watching this, you probably know who you are, but we're talking a little bit about decentralized exchanges and companies like Bittrex and Poloniex, and the centralized exchanges like Bittrex mainly, and there's a number of exchanges internationally as well. Myself being in the U.S., I think about Bittrex a lot and Poloniex when I think about centralized exchanges. But even these cryptocurrencies international, or these exchanges internationally, are going to be having to deal with regulation more and more and more. And to that effect, we can see one thing here, and I'll pull it up now, but we'll pull it up here. So China exchanges yanked token listings amid the ICO ban fallout. So a couple different, Yunbi, which is a fairly big Chinese exchange, is now pulling recently ICO'd coins from their exchange because they essentially don't want to open themselves up to getting in trouble from Chinese regulators. They don't want to be in trouble with the People's Bank of China, and they want to comply with these laws as much as possible. So they're basically saying, hey, if there were a number of recent coins, I forget the exact ones. I think 10x Pay Token was one, Status SNT was one. There were like 5 or 10 ones that were listed on Yunbi that are no longer going to be listed there, and they're taking corrective actions to get them off of their exchange so that they're not dealing with the regulation from the People's Bank of China and from China as a whole. This is important because while, this is China, and China is much quicker to deal with regulation and just to outright ban things than the US or a lot of other countries out there. I think it goes to show that with centralized exchanges, there is an issue there that, if regulation comes out, one of the first places, they're basically the first two places I think that the regulators will go is the companies themselves, and then the exchanges themselves. Probably the exchanges themselves first, and then the companies, because the exchanges are providing the liquidity in the market, and they're providing access for other people to get these coins. So that's something that they're looking at, is from how can we just kind of cut the head off of this problem, go straight to the exchanges. Now, with that being said, this, in a lot of cases, and I've had this conversation kind of multiple times, and it was a good conversation I had today in regards to decentralized exchanges, where something like EtherDelta or a couple other exchanges out there as well. We can pull up EtherDelta here, and I'll look at Moneta since I just participated in that ICO. But you can look at EtherDelta, and there's Kyber is another one that's coming out. There's multiple. Basically, there's multiple of these exchanges, these decentralized exchanges, which are hopefully going to have a positive effect on the regulation, or give people an opportunity for liquidity. The one thing that's interesting is the lack of companies like Bittrex that are adding new cryptocurrencies, newly ICO'd cryptocurrencies. So Moneta is saying they're in talks to get added to big exchanges. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see if that's going to be a problem in the near future, because it'll be interesting that if Moneta and these other ICOs, whatever the recent ICOs are that have come out, but they have not gotten added to large exchanges outside of something like an EtherDelta or some of the other decentralized exchanges, it's a little bit more difficult for them to get real liquidity in the marketplace right now. I mean, even if we look at Moneta, it's sold out millions of dollars. I forget the exact number, but it sold out millions of dollars in 18 minutes. And then when we look at the markets right now, it's done well so far in the marketplace, but it only has $2 million of volume in the past 24 hours, and that's really on the back of EtherDelta. That's basically the only place it's trading. So if something like Bittrex and companies like Bittrex and Poloniex are afraid to add new cryptocurrencies, that could have, I think, a negative effect on the overall ICO spikes that a lot of people get. When somebody goes to trade, buys an ICO or buys one of these new cryptocurrencies that might be on EtherDelta or maybe on a very, very small exchange, and you go to buy something there, if you can't sell that quickly, if there's no liquidity there, or if you're just not able to work EtherDelta or can't figure it out, then it'll be interesting to see how that affects things. And hopefully regulation gets figured out quickly. Hopefully companies like Bittrex can work with the government or whoever the hell they need to work with to just make sure that this market keeps just actively moving forward in a positive direction. But I think that's something you want to be, if you're participating in some of these ICOs, you want to be somewhat aware of, is how regulation might affect exchanges. And particularly from an exchange standpoint, are you going to have to utilize decentralized exchanges in the future, because centralized exchanges are too scared to be trading multiple altcoins and would rather be on like a CoinBase type of level where they just trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. So that's something that you want to keep an eye on as well, and kind of one of the theses that I have going on that I'm looking at, in addition to continuing to move my money continuing to move some of my profits that I've gotten from ICOs, from some of these trades into the larger cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, trying to grow my position in both of those in case, and I'm not saying it's by any stretch definitely going to happen, but in case this window of altcoin profits goes away at some point in time, if that happens, I want to be as protected as possible and as insulated as possible within cryptocurrency. I don't necessarily want to take all my money out of cryptocurrency by any stretch. I like the space. I want to stay in from a gain standpoint, but I want to be, somewhat a little bit more insulated than I have been in the past. And I think collecting more money and moving more money into the larger cryptocurrencies is going to be a place where it might reduce some of my potential gains, but at the same time should be a positive move in the long run. So we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, this is kind of what I'm feeling from my portfolio perspective and what I'm looking at doing in the near future and how I'm going to continue to develop things as I go and see fit. If you have any questions on my overall thought process in the market, kind of how I'm crafting my portfolio, what's in your portfolio, what are you thinking about doing? I would love to hear your thoughts about it. If you have suggestions as to how I could create a better portfolio for myself, I would love to hear that as well. This is a very collaborative process for me. This YouTube is a very collaborative process for me. The reason for me talking about my own portfolio, showing you basically exactly what's in it, and helping to kind of walk through my thought process, the positive moves I made, the negative moves I made, things that have not done well, like Credo, that ICO, or OAX, and not selling DNT in time, certain things like that. I'm trying to do this so that you can hopefully avoid the mistakes that I've made personally in the past, and I'm trying to avoid making in the future. That's, I think, a big aspect of getting better in this space is learning from other people's mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and trying not to duplicate those in the future. That's really the whole goal for me in this space, is trying to learn as much as possible from different people, which is why I'm talking to whether it's new people in the space, people that have been in cryptocurrency for a while, experienced leaders in the space, new up-and-comers, people that are hosting these meetup groups, things like that. I'm trying to get as involved as possible, learn as much as possible, because quite frankly, I think knowledge is power in cryptocurrency and knowledge is profit. And the more you know, the more profitable you're going to be in terms of your, whether it's trading or just outright holding and investing. I think knowledge is power here. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to develop and what I'm hoping to portray to you. And as I continue to learn, I hope to improve this channel as much as possible for you as well. Again, if you are new here, hit the subscribe button. I would really, really appreciate that. That would be awesome. And if you enjoyed this video, if you hopefully enjoyed the transparency, throw me a like. That'd be awesome. Rob from Crypto Bobby, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck doing whatever you're doing in the cryptocurrency space, whether you're buying, trading, holding, selling. I wish you the best of luck. Hit that subscribe button. Rob from Crypto Bobby signing out. Peace.